Hello, welcome to another Yellow Chair devotional. We are exploring all sorts of characters in the New Testament and their stories. So let's see who we have today. All right, what is this guy doing? I see a boat and a wave and the sun is down and the stars are out and he is on the water. Does he look excited about that or does he look a little nervous? I don't know, he's walking on water, but he looks a little concerned. Our key phrase says, Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water. All right, which disciple, which follower of Jesus do you think this was? Peter. This is Peter. Peter was one of Jesus's closest friends. He followed Jesus everywhere, even when Jesus told him to walk on water. Later, when Jesus was arrested, Peter got scared and said he never knew Jesus. But Jesus loved Peter so much and he forgave him. All right, let's look at our story of Peter walking on water. All right, so Peter was a fisherman. And so he knew what water was about, right? He probably was a good swimmer. He'd been in storms before in his boat. And Jesus called him to be a fisher of men and a fisher of women, a fisher of people, where he goes, instead, let's get people to follow me. All right, so Peter does. He drops everything and he follows Jesus, and he is so loyal to Jesus. But Peter also, he can get himself into a little bit of trouble. So let's see. This is going to be Matthew chapter 14. Matthew 14. All right, so we've been in Matthew a lot recently. So do we remember how to find it? It's our first book in the New Testament. All right, so we can choose to go from the back of the Bible forward, right? We could flip from the backwards and we could go past all of Paul's writings, Romans, Acts, John, Luke, Mark, Matthew. Or we could go from the Old Testament forward and flip through all of our prophets. And we know when we see Malachi, that's our last book in the Old Testament, and that's when we know we're at Matthew, all right? So then we're going to use our chapter numbers, right? So our big numbers. So we want chapter 14. So here's my guide that chapter 14 is on this page, and we want verse 22. So little number 22. So we look through, we use our finger, skim all the way until we get verse 22. And my Bible has these little headings, right? These headings. And this one says Jesus walks on the water. So I think we're at the right spot. All right, so hit pause if you need a little bit more time to get there. Matthew chapter 14, verse 22. Here we go. Then Jesus made his followers get into the boat. He told them to go ahead of him to the other side of the lake. Jesus stayed there to tell the people they could go home. After he said goodbye to them, he went alone up into the hills to pray. It was late and Jesus was there alone. By this time, the boat was already far away on the lake. The boat was having troubles because of the waves and the wind was blowing against it. Do we in the Dakotas know what wind is? Yes, we do. So can you imagine on some of our windy days being in a boat out on the lake on water and not having a motor, right? Because they didn't have motors on their boats. So what are they going to do? Verse 25. Between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning, Jesus' followers were still in the boat. And Jesus came to them. He was walking on the water. When his disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. They said, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear, but Jesus quickly spoke to them. He said, "Have courage! It is I. Don't be afraid." Peter then said, "Lord, if that is really you, then tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." And Peter left the boat and walked on the water to Jesus. But when Peter saw the wind and the waves, he became afraid and began to sink. He shouted, "Lord, save me!" Then Jesus reached out his hand and caught Peter. Jesus said, "Your faith is small. Why did you doubt?" After Peter and Jesus were in the boat, the wind became calm. Then those who were in the boat worshiped Jesus and said, "Truly you are the Son of God." So Peter gets up, he gets out and he starts walking on top of the water. But then, oh man, one of those wind gusts hits him and maybe a wave splashes him and he goes, "Oh no!" And he gets scared. Maybe he looks down at his feet and he goes, "Oh man, I'm actually in the middle of a lake." And he takes his eyes off Jesus and he starts losing faith, right? We've said faith is like trusting, believing, and he starts to sink and he cries out, "Lord, save me." Did you know that every single time that we cry out, "Lord, save me, Jesus, save me," did you know that he always does? It might not look like a literal hand reaching and pulling us up out of the water, but we can be sure that Jesus is doing something beyond what we can even see or imagine to save us, just the way that he knows we need it. Because Jesus doesn't want us to sink or swim. He wants to save us. So Jesus helps Peter get back in the boat, and then he goes, "Your faith is small. Why did you doubt?" So, how do we have big faith? How do we have big trust, big belief? Well, I think part of it comes from what we do here in the Yellow Chair devotionals, right? The more we spend some time with Jesus, the more we learn about the stories in the Bible, we're able to learn and grow in our faith. We're able to have a better love and a better trust in who Jesus is because we know him. He's our friend. And I don't know about you, but I trust my friends or my family members a lot more than I trust a stranger, right? It's people that we spend time with, that we trust, that we have faith in. And so it takes us spending some time like we are right now with Jesus to grow our faith. Peter spends a lot of time with Jesus. This is at the kind of the middle of Peter's journey with Jesus, and he's going to keep walking with him. He's going to keep spending time with him, and he is still going to have moments all the way to denying that Jesus is his friend. Oh, wouldn't that hurt your feelings if one of your best friends denied that they were your friend and said, "No, I don't know them"? Oh, how do you think that made Jesus feel? This is when Jesus is going to the cross to die for us because he loves us so much. And Peter, one of his best friends, says, "I don't know who Jesus is." Oh man, wouldn't that hurt our feelings? Imagine how Jesus felt. He maybe thought, "Oh, Peter, why is your faith so small? Why did you doubt?" But you know something? Jesus loved Peter. And Jesus has a special moment with Peter later on where he has a meal with Peter. They sit down, they eat some fish, they sit around a campfire, and they mend their friendship, their relationship. Jesus wants to sit with you. He wants to sit around a campfire with you. There's going to be times when maybe it's embarrassing to be a Christian. Or maybe we go to church on a different day and that feels a little weird. Or maybe we eat different foods, or we dress differently, or maybe we go to different schools, or maybe we homeschool. There's always going to be things about us that are a little bit different. And that's how God made us, right? God made us all unique and special and different and amazing. But we live in a world that makes us feel like we need to fit in. And so Jesus goes, "You want to know something? There's going to be times where you're going to deny me. You're going to say, no. I don't need to pray for my food before we eat. It's not that big a deal." Or maybe something like, "Oh, I'll have some of that, even though it's not what we normally do." Or we go along with the crowd, or we bend to the peer pressure like Peter did. And those moments, they hurt Jesus's feelings, don't they? They hurt his feelings, but you want to know something? Jesus goes, "Oh, but I love you. I forgive you. Your faith was a little small in that moment. Your faith was small, but please don't doubt me. And don't worry, I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to love you no matter what. And he invites himself in and he says, let's sit around a campfire together. Let's have some food together. And let's just hang out and be friends. Don't worry, I forgive you. Will you keep loving me? Because I love you. So we can learn a lot from Peter about how much Jesus loves us and about what it means to be a follower of Jesus, right? Peter and all of the disciples, well, each of us is a disciple. We're Christians who follow Jesus, who follow Christ. And so we can learn a lot from someone like Peter. And it also reminds me that someone like Peter, who absolutely, he saw Jesus in person, he messed up. What about us who, I've never seen Jesus, have you? So it makes me feel a little bit better knowing that for Jesus to love and forgive Peter, oh man, he loves and forgives us too, and I'm really thankful about that. So Peter trusted Jesus enough to step out onto the water, but then he got a little uncertain. Why can we trust Jesus even when we are afraid? All right, so Peter kind of learned that I need to keep believing, having faith in Jesus even when I'm scared. Why can we trust Jesus even when we're afraid? Well, because Jesus is the one who saves us, isn't he? I'd rather walk on water with Jesus than just try and go walk on water by myself, unless the lake was frozen. Then I'll try and walk on water. How about that? I'm just kidding. That still makes me nervous. But we can trust Jesus even when we're afraid. And you know what? Jesus says, it's okay to be afraid. Just hold on to my hand. Jesus has pretty strong hands. I don't know what you think. I think his hands are pretty strong. So we're going to say a prayer together, and then I'm going to give you a little activity that you can do later, all right? So let's bow our heads. Dear Jesus, we are thankful for Peter's story. We know that you give us the strength to do what you ask. Help us to always trust you. Help us to have that faith, that belief in you, even when it's hard and even when we feel like we don't fit in. We know that sometimes we're going to hurt your feelings and we're going to say things we regret, but we're so thankful that you love us and forgive us, and you just want to sit around a campfire with us and let us know that you're going to be our friend no matter what. We thank you for that. In your name, amen. All right, I want you to use your imagination. What do you think it feels like to walk on water, right? If you were to pretend, have you ever played the game like Hot Lava, where the ground is lava? Maybe grown-ups don't let you play that inside the house because then you end up jumping on furniture, which probably isn't the greatest idea. But outside on the playground, maybe the ground is lava and you're having to jump from monkey bars or something, trying not to touch the ground. What if instead we pretended the ground was water? What would that feel like? Could we play a game where we create a game where the ground is water and the wind is coming? What do you think it felt like for Peter? What do you see around you? If the ground is water and you're in the middle of the lake, what do we see way off in the distance? So use your imagination. Maybe come up with a game of make-believe where the ground is water and you're getting to walk on water like Jesus and Peter did. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, remembering that we can have trust in Jesus because he is always going to save us. I will see you tomorrow.